Hi, welcome to Marlene at Home, and I'm Marlene, and thank you for joining us. This episode is called Houses of Summer, and I'm from the Carroll County Public Library North Carroll branch, where I'm the Adult Services Supervisor. I've been thinking a lot about Houses of Summer lately, and so I thought I would do an episode on it. One of the things that prompted my thoughts was that this summer I had an aunt call me and say, when your mom was breaking up housekeeping, my sister and I asked my aunt if there was anything of my mom's that she would like to come and get, and she took some items, and one of them was this lighthouse, summer house, sitting high up on a cliff and water waves crashing against it. And now my Aunt Bonnie is downsizing, and she called me back and she said, would you or your sister would like this? And so I said, oh, sure. I always used to sit up on top of one of my mom's china cupboards. And so anyway, I've enjoyed looking at it on different sides. There's a boat dock, the waves, the house, the lighthouse, the little boathouse, the little boat, all different kinds of things here. And it got me thinking about Houses of Summer. Then in the library, I kept coming across recent magazines on the same theme. This one is the August this year edition of Old House Journal, and the title was called Houses of Summer. And I thought, that's exactly what I was thinking of. And it just talks about all different houses of summer. And I also like the pictures. Houses of Summer had porch, had a view. It reminded me of places that I have stayed in the summer. The next one was the House Beautiful, the June-July issue, House Beautiful and the Great Outdoors, and it talks about the hillside cottage, the treetop resort, and the colorful beach bungalow. And I was like, I've been thinking about these kind of things. And then the August-September issue of Cottages and Bungalows says, let's get outside. Stylish beach and pool time gear plus fun outdoor structures. And it says tour shore inspired homes, lakefront cottages, riverside respite, and seaside escapes. So this theme just kept coming back to me. Then my husband and I tonight were just talking about our childhood memories of different homes or houses that we would stay at over the summer. Some were very short, some were longer times. And I was just jotting, especially from my husband's stories, I was taking lots of notes, and now I hope I can try to remember to tell you the things that he told me. But I wonder, are you a beach person? Maybe a lake person, an ocean person? No, none of that water and sand for you. Maybe you're a mountain person or a tent person. Maybe even the tent could only be in your backyard. Are you a camper? Are you an RV person? I saw a little plaque that said, home is where the boat is. Maybe your house of summer is a boat. Maybe it's a hotel or a resort or a rental property. Or, like me growing up, most of my times of vacation as a child were spent with family, going to an aunt's house or aunt and uncle's houses or friends' homes. And so a lot of special memories. What are my favorite parts of a house of summer that I enjoy? I really love it when there's a porch. And I'll tell you about one of my favorite places, summer places with a porch. Or a view. Or waterfront. That's always a favorite of mine. Or classic decor. Or filled with antiques. Lots of fun things to think about when I think of houses of summer that fit those categories. In my childhood, the first summer places that I remember us going to as kids is to a family friend's home in Galena, Maryland on the Sassafras River. It was just a little cottage when they bought the place, and they moved from my hometown where they had, a full-size home. They were a family of 7, and they moved to this little teeny tiny, what had been a summer cottage, and the husband of the house, we called him Uncle Melvin. They weren't related. We weren't related, but anyway, he said, I'll add on. I can, change it, and we'll fit. And we would go down there. They lived up on the top of the high hill, and you didn't have a view from the water necessarily from their house, but 2 doors down. And I remember the steps were very steep, like I don't know, 100 maybe steps, no railings, and you would go down into this valley. There were houses way up on this side, houses way up on this side. You'd walk down, and then you would be at the river. And what fun times with the Bunch family. And we spent many a summer time there. Also other times of the year, but the summer was our favorite. Summer at our family cabin was lots of fun, and we would go to nearby state parks for a place to swim. Here's Pop-Up helping Josiah get his worm on his line. The streams from the mountains would run down to these water spots, and the water was freezing cold, but kids always loved it. Another favorite of my family's was to go to Ocean City, New Jersey, and we would just loved going to the beach. We had favorite restaurants. It just was a real family atmosphere. We loved going to the music pier for the concerts there. One of my family traditions, we would just maybe be sitting at dinner or after dinner, and somebody, whoever wanted to, could say, this would be a great night to ride to the ocean, or to the shore, we would call it. And 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 o'clock at night, we'd jump in the car, drive a couple hours to Ocean City, New Jersey, walk the boardwalk. It was just so fun to come home at 2 or 3 in the morning and just have a wonderful time. Usually it was a night when we saw a full moon, but I remember when my husband first started coming around, he just couldn't understand the rationale of getting up at spur of the moment and driving a couple hours to the shore when it was late at night, or getting later all the time. We wouldn't get there till late at night. But that's a very special memory of things that we did as kids and summer places that we went and stayed. Paul has lots of fun summer memories as a child. Paul's one of 8 children, 4 girls and 4 boys. And Dad was an ordained pastor and a professor at a Christian college. And so when Paul was very young, Dad would go and speak at Ben Lippen Conference Center. Ben Lippen means Mountain of Trust. It was up in the mountains of Asheville, North Carolina. Just gorgeous views, beautiful, beautiful area. And Dad would speak for 1 or 2 weeks, and it was a fabulous time for a family with 8 children to go to such a special place and have a place to vacation while Dad was speaking. And I asked Paul what was his favorite memory there, and he said, the food. So tells you a little bit about his age and his preferences. He said the only memory he really has is getting very badly stung on the face when a brother, he's one of 4, so, well, 3 others plus him, a brother, we won't say who, dared him to hit a wasp nest with a broom. So that's his memory of the Ben Lippen years. But after that, they would go to Savannah. Maybe about 4 years of Paul's growing up years where summers were in Savannah. Once again, it was for, this time in Savannah they would stay for the month of August, and Dad Wenzel would preach because Pastor Smoyer and his wife and family, they would come north for 4 weeks of vacation, and Dad would stay and take over the pastoral responsibilities at this Presbyterian church in Savannah. One year, Paul said he remembered that his Little League team was in the championship for the state championship, and if his team won that game to move up to the final part of the state championship, then he would stay with a friend. His family filled the car with everything needed for vacation and filled with 7 children plus mom and dad. And towards the end of the game, to wait and see if Paul won or lost, they lost. Paul jumped in the car and went to Savannah. I'm not sure he was real sad about that. But anyway, one summer they stayed in a little vacation cottage that a man that was a pharmacist and owned several pharmacies in Savannah. And what he and his wife would do would buy cases of sodas, Paul said 5 or 6 feet high, for the Wenzel kids to have over those 4 weeks in the summer, and they all remember that. They thought that was just fabulous. Another summer, and he said in that area, it was, near an inlet, and lots of bamboo grew between the property where they were staying and a very large mansion next door, a southern mansion. They befriended the family, they played with the kids, and they had great memories there. And another summer, they stayed in one of the very historic southern mansions of Savannah. So that's not the usual summer spot for a family with 8 children, but they have fond memories there. Another year they stayed in the manse, the home of Pastor and Mrs. Moyer and their family, and Paul said one of his favorite memories there was a pear tree and having lots of things to eat. He said during the Savannah summers there was lots of swimming and crabbing and fishing and boating with neighbors and church friends. He does remember once some of the kids and 1 or 2 adults in a boat were stranded because of the water going out, and the tide went out and they were stuck in mud for several hours. So he has that memory. Also, Tybee Beach is where they spent lots of time playing. And he said at that time there was hardly anybody on the beach during those years, not like now where it's blanket to blanket at most beaches. But he said they would have corn boils, they would have cookouts, and they just spent a lot of time playing on Tybee Beach. Here's a photo around that time period, and Paul is between his oldest sister and Dad. Once Paul and I were married, often our trips in the summer were to his home, his parents' home, and many brothers and sisters lived in the Columbia, South Carolina area. It seems like as soon as school was out, we would go to Mom and Dad's, and almost the same every year the kids would want to go to the state capitol, the state museum, so we would see the same things many years, but we always loved being at Mom and Dad Wenzel's house. And then my sister, she lived in Delaware, she lived in California, she lived in Alabama. She's been in Alabama, she and her family, many years. So we have lots of fond memories there. And friends of theirs have a beach house that they always lend us. And so all of my sister's family and all of our family have wonderful memories near Destin, Florida. My most favorite beach in the whole world is St. Andrews State Park. And it is always on the top 10 or 100 beaches in the U.S. It is so gorgeous. The sand is pure white. The water is so warm. It's like bath water. It's turquoise. You can see all the way to the bottom to your toes. You can see the fish. It's just an amazing place. And why? It's usually them and Hawaii that have the top beaches on this list. When our girls were growing up, we started going to Thousand Islands, Canada, on the St. Lawrence Seaway. The place that we stayed at was a friend of our family's. They called it a cottage, but believe me, it was no cottage. It was 9 bedrooms. It was right on the water. It was just beautiful, filled with antiques. You just felt like you were going back in time. We have so many wonderful memories there. It's right near. We could sit on the porch and look off in the distance to our left and see the Thousand Island Bridge that connects the U.S. to Canada. Because of the place being so big, we always went with many family members, many friends, and it'd be a long list if I told you all the different families that vacationed with us over the years there. We just loved it. My favorite part there, not only was the view of the water, but the porch. I could have spent my whole week on the porch reading, although you wouldn't get much reading done because you just love looking out at the St. Lawrence, watching all the boats go by, and it was wonderful at the time. I would sit and read. Paul would be out fishing morning, noon, and night, then taking us as a family out for rides, which our kids would love. They would go, "Daddy, go faster, go faster." And I'm like, "No, my eyes are like this." But anyway, we just loved that wonderful place, the Willows on Hill Island in Canada. It was definitely the favorite place of our girls. When our first daughter went to college, my husband sold the boat for the college fund. And that's the last time that we've been up there. This is my favorite vacation place in the whole world, the Willows on Hill Island. And here are my parents fishing out front. And you will notice the bridge that's attaching the island that the house is on with the island that the boathouse is on. And here we are leaving the boathouse, taking a boat ride on the St. Lawrence Seaway. This was 36 years ago today. We also would go to friends' houses. At our first church, we had some friends, dear friends, Dunlaps, that had a home in the Poconos at Lake Harmony. So we enjoyed many a good time there. Then when we moved here to Maryland, you know, I was used to, if you're going to the ocean, if you're going to the beach, and of course we call it going down to the shore, it was always Ocean City, New Jersey. But when we moved here, it was suddenly Ocean City, Maryland, which I knew nothing about. But we had dear friends that had places there from our church, and we have just had many, many, many times down at Ocean City, Maryland, and fond memories with our girls, and after our girls were gone. And now our grandchildren love going because our son-in-law's parents have a place there, and we've been to their place a number of times. But anyway, just a fun place that now our grandkids love as well. Then we began renting rental homes because all of my sister's family and grandchildren were coming, all of us and our children and grandchildren. And so we have wonderful memories, even though now it's just so hard to get everybody together. Everybody's schedules are so crazy, and we're coming from all different states. But we've rented homes, log cabin homes in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Once we went at Christmas, I loved it. There was a blizzard. We were like the last people to get into that far into the mountain and get our rental property that we had, reserved months ahead. And so that was just a winter wonderland. I loved it. But summer and fall, of course, we could get around much better. The mountain views are fabulous. The log cabins we rented would have these gorgeous porches and decks, and the drop off from the back porch would be way down, and it's just, we love Gatlinburg. This was a late summer trip with my sister's family. Here's the entrance. Here's a view from the side. It was 3 stories, gorgeous view. Here's a little peek out of the living room window on the 2nd floor. Another time, our 2 families went to Edisto Beach in South Carolina, the island there, and that was a wonderful, great time. In Edisto, we had another 3-story house that we really enjoyed. And here is baby Cohen and I under the palm tree, while Pub-Up was with Avery down at the ocean about a block away. One of the best parts is grandkids crawling in bed with us early in the morning. Somehow at a young age, they learn to love Pub-Up's phone. In recent years, our kids, our 4 kids and grandchildren went to a lake in Alabama. And I remember there were just hundreds and hundreds of steps. I've never seen so many steps. But our grandkids loved it, and for us as adults, it was the exercise program of the week. This was another beautiful 3-tier home, porches on all levels. We were right near this beautiful lake in Alabama. And of course, my favorite part, a beautiful porch, just one of them. This was on the 2nd story. And here's just a small segment, maybe a quarter of the steps, or you could take the water slide. Here's the grandkids saying goodbye after a fun week. This is all of my family, except for one son-in-law. And so we've just had wonderful places that we've gone. Might be early summer, might be late summer, but fond memories of houses of summer. I would love to hear about your houses of summer. Was it a tent in your backyard? Was it some resort? Was it something you rented? Was it a family cabin? Just fun things to think about, back all the way to your childhood, to your kids' childhood. And are you thinking about another summer house where you might consider in future summers? Thanks for joining me at Marlene at Home.